Hey everyone, it's Justin, and just wanted to introduce this next clip. My friend Sampson McCormick, who's an awesome comedian, awesome actor, he actually decided to start a segment on black gay love. So, me and my husband are featured in it, and I just want to give you that brief, quick intro. And I wanted to also give a personal thank you to our friend Sampson McCormick for letting us be a part of this project. And here we go.
Justin and Phil, how are y'all?
Hey, we're well.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good.
I have to start this by getting all up in y'all's business because that's what we do. And I have to ask, how long have y'all been together and how did y'all first meet?
We've been together for 17 years, almost 18 years. And we met at the DC Eagle in Washington, DC. I walked in and I immediately went to the left because there's a main bar. And I didn't know this, but he had noticed me when I walked in. Of course, I was walking away when he noticed me. So, so then I got to the bar and I looked to my left and I saw him, and I was like, "Wow, he's." And I saw the tattoos because he has tattoos like all over his body. You would never see. And I saw him, and I just he was talking to these two twinks, and I was just like, I mean, I was a twink as well, but I was like, oh. So I had to get him away from them. And there was one black manager at the bar. His name was Angus. And I said, I got it. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the whole mistaken identity black man thing. So I went up to him and said, Angus, they need you at the bar really quickly. And I grabbed him and I pulled him away. And he stopped me after like maybe 5 paces away. He said, I'm not Angus. I'm like, oh, I know. Hi, I'm Justin. And he said, nice to meet you. And I think we talked for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he was having a fundraiser, and the fundraiser was over, and that was that.
I was in a previous relationship that was actually waning, right? It was on its way out. There were lots of issues that were going on. And, we were both we still are part of the leather community. So, open relationships and those sorts of things are part of our lifestyle, right? So we saw each other probably 2 or 3 times after that. And then I introduced Justin to sort of my circle of friends and associates in the leather community. We continued to see each other. I left my ex, and Justin moved up to Baltimore. I got my own spot in Laurel. Probably about 6 or 7 months later, he was spending so much time with him, like, okay, why don't you just move in? And the rest is literally history. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
You know why? You better know.
Well, Justin, why do you think y'all were a good match?
What do I think? Oh, the sex was great. No, that's not the reason why. I mean, that's part of it though. But no, I just think that I have had past relationships where I would run all over the guy, and the guy wouldn't stand up and wouldn't stand up to me. So the relationship would be over in my eyes, pretty much. But then I challenged him and he stood his ground, and I was just like, okay, I'm a little okay, so this is surprising to me that somebody would stand up to me this way. And I kind of would I admire that and I respect that. So the whole thing came of the first level of, for me, was having respect for him. It really was good for me. I was like, okay, so this is someone who cares about me, who loves me, who listens to me, and who I would do anything for. So to me, that's what made it a really good mix.
And for Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I think just being supportive of each other. He would challenge me as well. He wouldn't let me, if I was in my own shit, he wouldn't let me stay there very long. And it's nice to have someone that our entire relationship has been supporting each other while one's going through something or doing something important, and then the other one would step in and take on more responsibilities and vice versa. And that's literally been the pattern since we got together.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't think I would have been motivated to go as far as I've gone in academia if it wasn't for him. Like, I was just like, and when I first met him, I was like, oh, another Black same-sex loving person that has a PhD. And of course, I love, like, I'm attracted to intelligence. And I was just like, ooh, like that, wow. And I just loved it. I was like, wow. And then he pushed me and encouraged me to go back to school. I got my associates, I got my bachelor's, my master's, my doctorate, and I got a second master's. So I'm like, okay, yeah, he's very encouraging.
So that sounds like it has some very healthy components, as well as components that have challenged y'all to kind of rise up into your better selves.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing we don't let each other get away with our bullshit. You know, we all get like stuck in our stuff, right? And we push each other through that. We don't allow our partner to stay in that space.
Yeah, it's how a lot of people I find become stagnant and they'll stay in their shit. And what happens when you stay in shit too long? Your nose is actually the first sense of adaptability that is quickest. And so if you stay in shit too long, shit starts to not stink. So you stay in shit, and that's your norm now. Like, you've stayed in shit so long, this is your norm. So we don't allow each other to do that.
You know, there is an age difference. And so what challenges has that presented, or how have y'all been able to navigate that?
So 20-something Justin was a challenge. Yeah, there's a 16 years difference with us, right? So 20-something Justin was a bit of a challenge, as everyone in DC knows. He was so special in DC.
Oh my God.
30-something Justin was a challenge. But he really buckled in and was school and everything. And it, you know, again, I'm like tongue in cheek and challenge. What I mean by that was, when we're young, we don't always see things clearly. We do stupid things. So the benefit of being a little bit older, having been through, you know, life, you know, it was a challenge for me to remember and to also create space for Justin to be younger, right? So, you know, late 20s, early 30s, he's wanting to go out, which I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I'm like, I'm done, right? I don't want to be doing that right now. But creating space for that to happen. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges with couples that that have an age difference of, you know, between 5 and 10 years. That's a significant amount of time, depending on where you are in your life, right? So creating that space and recognizing where your partner is, I think, is important, right? So recognizing that Justin needed to be social and to do things and all the shit that I explored when I was his age, right? I gave him space and freedom to do that.
I think
Within limits.
Wow. I mean, he's right. I mean, if 20-something Justin was very different from 40-something Justin. I was ripping and running the streets. I was like, yes, let's go out. Let's do. I was like 2 o'clock in the morning, like, yeah, let's still go out. And then I think listening to him, because he is older than me, it was a challenge for me, because I was at the time, like, in my age range, thinking that I knew everything I needed to know, and not really understanding that anybody can tell me anything different, right? I'm always right. And then, you know, dating this man kind of told me, I'm like, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I need to start listening more and actually slow down maybe a little bit. He didn't really slow me down. It's just that as I got older, I realized that, what he was saying was right. Okay. And then we became parents. And that really, when you become a parent, everything slows down. Everything slows down, except for the kids. And I think that listening to someone who has a little bit more experience than me has definitely helped me get through my 20s and 30s. So yeah.
Do you think there's a certain stigma or taboo around age differences in the gay community when it comes to dating?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we're a part of the leather community, so it's like not uncommon for us to see an older and a younger partner together. However, when you step outside of that community, a lot of the times in the mainstream gay community, you see the stigma, you see it. And I remember one time, a friend of mine, his partner was significantly older than he was. And I said, and I said, oh, okay, I didn't know that that was your partner, no problem. And of course, I had another friend come up to him and say, oh, yeah, so I guess, is he taking you out? And the younger partner was like, no, I'm paying for dinner. Because the stereotype is that the older gentleman is obviously more well off than the younger gentleman. The younger gentleman is just basically just
the sugar daddy
a trophy boy or what have you. But I will say that in my 20s, I made significantly less money than I made now. So, but now that he's retired, I'm the breadwinner, and I've been the breadwinner for a couple of years now. So it's like, that it changes.
I think there's just a stigma period around aging in the gay community, right? Like, you turn from 29 to 30 and oh my gosh, now you're old. And it's all BS, right? And I think it's because we have a heavy youth culture. There's so much emphasis on looking young and being young and staying. And it's American culture too, but I think it's more pronounced in the gay community. And yeah, I think it's misperception. I'm very conscious of the fact that we lost a generation, right? So, many of the people that were my age and older than I am, they were lost. They were lost in the AIDS crisis, right? So, younger gays younger the gays, the young generation didn't necessarily have the honor, really, of seeing an older generation and what it meant to be. We had to make stuff up, right? So I think that's part of it as well, right? That there's, kind of the stigma around aging. We lost a generation in there. And it's such a youth-based culture.
Y'all are actually leather community royalty. We might as well put that out there.
We try.
Tell us as you adjust your crown. Can you share with us a little bit about the significance of the leather community and also what it's been like being a couple in the leather community?
The significance, again, it's part of the history of our broader community, right? That there, and there's rumors, if you will. There's lots of mythology about where the leather community came from and what it was based on. And quite frankly, it's like every other aspect of our community. It's a blend, right? So some of the guys were, returning veterans from World War II that were motorcycle veterans, and so they kind of continued that legacy. And there were the motorcycle club legacies, right? And then there were groups of people of color that were in sort of like these BDSM families, right? Very similar to the ballroom scene in New York. And so these larger communities had blossomed. So there's lots of myths about where the community came from, but it's always been a part of the LGBTQ plus IA. I think I got all the acronyms in there. What was the?
Oh my gosh, Legitiquois?
Legitiquois community, right? It's like the drag community that was so prominent, and these were tight-knit groups of folks that would get together and celebrate each other, and did it in secrecy because we had to. And it's just always been kind of a part of our legacy.
It's definite benefits and challenges. Because when I find that being kinky and being leather and knowing your fetishes and being sexually aware of what you like and what you don't like, it definitely opens up your relationship as far as like being a mindset, like having an open mind. Because there are a lot of couples that are monogamous or say that they're monogamous and they have these certain fetishes, but one hasn't told the other because they're too scared. Or they think, or there's going to be shamed, or the stigma around whatever kink that they have. Like, I love the saying, "Don't yuck my yum." So, like, there's things that I like that he doesn't like. There's things that he likes to do that I don't like to do, can't do. So, so my thing is, but he allows me to explore those things with other people in a healthy way. So it's like, oh, okay, I can explore this kink or this fetish with this person that we both trust, and you know where I'm gonna be, and you know what time I'm gonna be, and you know what I'm gonna call you. And I mean, like, there's things that we put together to understand each other and to be more open-minded to what gives us pleasure, what we don't like. Those things are definitely things that help us stay strong in our community, in our relationship. But we also know that, and some people don't have what are called boundaries. And a lot of couples in the leather community don't discuss those boundaries. So you'll hear a lot of drama, like, you know, like in any couple that breaks up, you're just like, oh wow, what happened there? And then you find out that you know, they had a threesome and one guy left the other guy for the other guy. I mean, it's just like, oh, okay, so did you guys discuss, like, oh, you didn't discuss this before you, okay. Like, a lot of times that happens.
Yeah, like you can't be in a healthy kink relationship without knowing and respecting your boundaries, without having natural and healthy curiosity, right? So all that's kind of part of the culture of the leather community. And so for me, it's easier to be in a relationship in that space because there's no space for not openly communicating, not being honest about who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what your boundaries are, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable, right? That's all part of a healthy kink relationship.
Thank you for sharing and breaking that down for us a little bit. I got a couple more questions. So y'all said that y'all are also raising, is it a child or children?
Oh, they're raised. They're not here. No, they're out in the world adulting. There's two. We have a daughter and we have a son.
Yeah.
And they are back in Maryland doing their thing.
26
like
and
26 and
27.
20.
No, 26 and
26,
25. They'll be 26 and 27 this year.
Okay, so I scared the hell out of me.
Right?
So, but yeah, they're out adulting, doing their thing. Our son is going back to school. He's doing really great. And our daughter is doing her thing too. She's healthy as a horse and she's doing what she needs to do.
What was it like navigating parenthood together, especially with all the different complexities of your relationship?
We parent in two totally different ways, which is great because I don't mind being the bad cop because that's basically that was kind of like my role. I mean, I was the bad cop and he was the good cop. Except for when you got mad, they were scared as hell when he got mad. I mean, I would be like, and he's like, like, it's like, don't eat the children. He's more, I would say that you're a little bit more patient
Yeah.
than me.
Practice.
Oh, wow. Wow.
No, but you know what? One of my proudest accomplishments really is the kids, right? Because we were able to provide like a role model, right? They're both within our community. And you know, we were able to provide a safe space for them. And we were all, because they were older, they were teens when they came to us. Both of our kids are adopted. They were already active, as it were, in the community, right? So they were active.
They were active.
Oh my gosh. That understanding, but being able to be a role model for them, and to so we never had to hide anything. We could always be open and honest with them because, again, it was an example, like how to communicate in a relationship, how to have your needs met, how to be safe, how to engage in you know, sex or relationships with folks in a safe way, in a healthy way. And you know, it's awesome because there's nothing that we can't talk about with our kids, even when they were younger. It was definitely a challenge. Anyone that has had adopted kids or foster kids, and particularly adopted or foster kids that are in our community, you know, they have their issues, as we all did growing up, right? And it just got magnified because they also didn't have a safe home. So it was really awesome to be able to provide a safe home for them.
Yeah.
We did have our challenges, as any parents did. But you know what? They're out doing their thing and they're actually very healthy and vibrant, young adults.
When it comes to love and relationships for Black gay men, what do you think some of our biggest challenges are? And what do you think we can do to overcome some of those challenges?
Being authentic, right? Being authentic with ourselves, having a real appreciation for who we are and what we like, being proud of ourselves, loving ourselves, right? We talk about same gender loving. How about self-loving, right? Truly loving ourselves. We're fighting not only battles within ourselves and appreciating who we are and our own sexuality, but we're fighting years, decades, millennia of family stigma, of religious stigma. Don't get me started on the religious tip, right? 'Cause it's a whole nother ball game, and we're still, subscribing to that madness, quite frankly, right? That brainwashing, right? And then we turn on each other, right? We don't always respect each other. We don't always appreciate each other. And that starts with, I gotta love me, right? Before I can love you.
One of the things that I know as a Black man, but also especially as a same-sex loving Black man, is that we don't allow each other to see emotion, or we don't allow our emotions to come through, because we have this thing within us that's weak. Like, I need to stay strong, but that's weak. Showing emotion is weak. And it's like, no, it's not weak. It's actually, that's a part of being strong, is to be able to be that vulnerable in front of people. Also, on top of that, like, if you pushing away all that stigma that you were talking about, like in the past, and like church and things like that, like really understand that colonialism that destroyed a lot of culture that we would hold dear today if it didn't destroy it. Like, I mean, being a same-sex person, being a person who loves the same sex in Uganda now, you can get killed. You can be killed for it. And of course, a lot of that is because of colonialism, because being gay in earlier than colonial was actually accepted and was okay. Like, none of the tribes had an issue with it until colonialism told them that it was wrong.
And so we're still impacted by that even now.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. And then I think the one thing that really challenges me with our not just the same gender loving people of color, but the larger community, is that we just turn on each other, right? And it becomes vicious, and we cloak it in, well, I'm just reading, or I'm just being cat, you know what I mean? And it really is viciousness that it's almost like we're eating ourselves, right? And kind of turning in on each other, as opposed to recognizing and honoring and loving each other and supporting each other and holding each other up. As a performer, I'm sure right, that people come after you because they're jealous or whatever. That's not okay. It's, support each other, hold each other up, prop each other up. Don't talk about each other behind the other's back, all that kind of silly pettiness that we get into. And so that starts with not being okay with me, right? If I got to come after you, it's probably because I'm not comfortable looking at me. Look at yourself in the mirror and be comfortable with you. Be who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Be genuine, be authentic, be who you are. And then you're not challenged by me, right?
Yeah.
I don't present a challenge for you anymore because you're okay with who you are.
Yeah, y'all made some really strong points about things that we definitely need to work on improving in our community, for sure.
Yeah. And hopefully that, people will grow through that, right? People will start to, but again, you got to love yourself. You got to erase, years of other people telling you that you're not okay, because you are okay. You're okay as who you are. Be you.
So at the end of our conversations, we always leave ourselves and our audience with this Joseph Beam quote, which is, "Black men loving Black men is a revolutionary act." In your opinion, what makes Black men loving each other so revolutionary?
Because we don't really see it often. I think that what happens is, like, and I being a little bit in the industry, I see it a lot more now. But like, they'll usually, when they cast someone, usually it's like they'll have it's a white lead, and then the other lead, which is kind of supporting, is the Black boyfriend. So, but we don't see a lot in mainstream is that, two Black men loving each other and like having a Christmas story, or like some sort of plot twist or whatever. Like, we don't really see that a lot. That's why to me, at least in my opinion, it's so revolutionary, because we don't see enough of it.
And we have so few role models on Black men being strong in any relationship, whether they're same gender loving or whatever, because it was a threat, right? And through, the periods of slavery and colonialism, how do you take the power from someone? Well, you convince them that they're not worthy, and you separate them from people that they love, right? And so we're still healing from all of this, and we're still perpetuating some of this, right? That, the being in a relationship, being committed being honest in a relationship, are just not things that were modeled for Black men. It just wasn't modeled, right? For a whole bunch of reasons. So we're healing through that. And it is a revolutionary act to love yourself. It's a revolutionary act to love another Black man, to recognize and honor another Black man or a Black woman or another person of color. We're Justin mentioned it earlier, this is a Black and brown state. There are a few lighter folks wandering around who think they're in charge of the state, but truth be told, if you're not indigenous or indigenous Mexican or a person of color out here, you're in the minority in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Right. So, and part of that is just recognizing and honoring and loving each other.